Second, we'll get a little echo for a minute, and then I'll let you know when we're good to go. And we'll get a little echo for a minute, and then I'll let you know when we're good to go. Sorry, I never get used to that. Okay, we are live. Let me just get this presentation slides back up for you.
Sydney just sent me a text saying she's going to be a couple of minutes late. She had to run back home because her child left her lunch at home. So a little bit of a panic.
Was everybody able to get into the live binder that we shared yesterday? Or let me know if you had any trouble. I guess I'll say that.
I was able to get into the binder, but I couldn't access all the files. I don't know if that was
okay.
Yeah.
I had some of the same trouble this morning, Hassan, but then I refreshed for some reason when I was clicking in, and I wasn't seeing the minutes or the financials. But then when I refreshed and then I went back in again, they were there. So I don't know, maybe you were having the same trouble, but I was having that trouble this morning too.
Yeah, and actually, Vinette, I re-uploaded the minutes because I was having the same trouble, and like I knew they were there the other day, but I couldn't get it to open. So I closed the file and re-uploaded it. So we'll make sure, like I'll keep an eye on it. We actually don't have financials up there. I think our committee's just going to give a verbal update, and then we'll add more materials up there because our ed ops team was still making some forecast corrections for me since our meeting yesterday. But we'll explain that when we get there, and we'll make sure we keep getting all the materials up. Oh, I got another person joining us here. All right. Vinette, I think we have to take verbal roll call.
Yep. I've got my list in front of me.
Oh, okay, great. And then I think we're good.
All right. So I call this Perry Street Prep Board meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. Board members, when I call your name, please come off mute and say present. Abiola Johnson.
Present.
Bruce Newby.
Present.
Brandon Frazier.
Present.
Sydney Payton. I think Sydney's still trying to make her way in. Cindy Brown. Hassan Christian.
Present.
I know Katie Noonan will not be present this morning. Kelly Middleton Banks.
Present.
Martinique Free.
Present.
Melissa Lazarin.
Present.
Tashandra Stroman.
Present.
Shannon Smith.
Present.
Okay, and I'm Vinette Brown, and I'm also present. Wonderful. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
I move that we approve the agenda for today.
Martinique Free, do we have a second?
Second.
Hassan has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, the agenda has been approved for today. Do we have a motion to approve the September meeting minutes?
I move that we approve the September meeting minutes.
All right, thank you, Hassan. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, I think that was Abiola or Kelly. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, wonderful. Now we can actually move on to the agenda. I know that all these things seem weird, but we do have to go through each and every little piece. Leadership update. Hand it back over to you, Kelly and Rachel.
All right, sorry. All right, good morning. I just realized my mic and my video were off this whole entire time so if you didn't see me earlier, I apologize. Okay, so fall happenings. Back to school night, fall festival. Some of these things have already happened. We recently just had a spirit week and back to school night. We are looking forward to having another spirit week. In 3 weeks, we're going to have 5 spirit weeks this school year. It is literally a time where the whole building is just festive and happy and fun. And kids really get into it and enjoy just those moments we have. So we're trying to create a lot of experiences where kids just get to have fun and express themselves. Parent teacher conferences just passed. We had parents on Zoom. We also had parents in person. Ever since COVID, we've been having parent teacher conferences on Zoom, and it has proven to be beneficial because more parents have access to parent teacher conferences now that we give them 2 options, one on Zoom and one in person. So that was that worked in our favor. Our aftercare showcase actually was last week and is going on again this week. It highlights all of our students in aftercare and their skills and clubs and talents. And we have a show choir, and they're performing on Thursday. So we're looking forward to that as well.
And a dance team that, Ms. Stroman's helping us. I was like, don't. Well, maybe we'll be able to take some video from that we could also share with you all. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And then our team, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kelly. Kelly, you can talk.
We wanted to do a little bit of just kind of sharing with our broader board now who the rest of the team is at our school. Rachel and I can chime back in. This is we do a start of school pictures of everybody each year. For our newest members, you don't know some of the same faces that we've seen for a very long time, but we wanted to share with you kind of what makes up a school building, what makes up our school building, because it is unique. We have got 8 people we qualify as school leaders. So those are people who run both our academic teams, our student support team, and then our out of school time and outreach team. We've got a small team of people who don't work directly with students at all, right? We've got someone who takes care of our HR, IRT, manages our main office, and manages our enrollment audit process, our recruitment, right? That's kind of a cycle job. And then obviously our biggest crew is our teachers. We've got 25 general education teachers. So they are our bread and butter. And then what we want to show you guys is how much there is outside of them too. We've got about 2 cohorts per grade. So that's what makes up that 25. And then some specials that include like social studies and science that reach a couple different grades with their work. We've got 5 enrichment teachers. So we've grade banded that this year. So our younger students are served by 2 people every other day who do a combination of art, science, music, and movement. And then our 3rd through 8th graders get our art, music, PE, and health teacher. So they're kind of seeing everybody 1 to 2 times a week for that, but each kid has a daily enrichment. Our next team on here is our student support team. So those are also teachers. If you go back like to our, our whole school picture, I kind of love seeing it like this whole team is a huge combination of people, right? Half those teachers are general ed teachers, but half of them are these student support teachers. And who they are the teachers who teach special education, which we've got a really big team of. Interventionists, so people who are doing math and reading intervention for students who are below grade level, but not having special learning needs that we've identified yet. So we're trying to catch them up. English language acquisition teachers, so those who are helping our students who have English as a second language. And then dedicated aides we put in this. So those are instructional aides who focus specifically on students with disabilities whose IEPs determine that they need an additional adult helping just them throughout the school day. We've got 3 clinicians on our staff, and then we've got more that we're going to share with you who meet that criteria. 16 instructional aides. So that actually number, I don't know about you, Rachel, but that number surprised me a little bit. It's like they kind of slip in and fill in all the cracks. So you forget how many of them there are, but like every pre-K classroom has a dedicated instructional aide. Every kindergarten, 1st grade classroom has a dedicated instructional aide. So we've got a lead teacher and an instructional aide all the way up through 1st grade. And then the rest of them are spread out a little bit. They're in special education classrooms. There's one that serves kind of all of middle school right now. And then this year, new to us, we've got recess aides who we put in that category. So this is something new we're trying. I don't think we found full success yet. I don't know what you think, Rachel, but we are trying to give our biggest complaint from teachers at the start of the year and the end of the year was recess and lunch duty, and that they just felt like they were exhausted and spent so much time doing recess and lunch duty, which is really not part of their like highest skill level. So we hired a bunch of part-time people to come in so that teachers now only have 1 day a week that they're helping with recess and lunch duty. And we're seeing pluses and minuses, right? We really have a big group of people that need more training and support. But it is really alleviating our teachers from more duties, which is great. And then lastly, I have our on-site daily partners. So we have more people who help us in the school on an occasional basis that we're going to talk a little bit more about, but we have 6 folks in our building who are not our employees, but work full-time with us. So we have a full-time school nurse. We have 2 social workers that are funded by 2 different other programs. We have maintenance and janitorial staff. So we have 2 of them that work full-time every day in our school. And then we have another SEL support clinician. So someone who mans a peace room is what we have it called. Anyone have any questions about kind of just the breakdown of our staff? It's pretty typical.
Is this the biggest staff we've ever had in the school?
Oh yeah, definitely. I went back and I was looking at something because for many years when we were down at like a 300 student enrollment, we were under the 50-person criteria for health insurance. So that's why I know that, we were at least under 50 for a couple of years. So we've definitely grown a lot and are really trying to use all these people to wrap around support for kids, right? And figure out how we help them. It's definitely our biggest expenditure too, right? Is our human capital and our most important resource at the school. Rachel, do you want to go through our leadership team? Give my voice a break.
Sure thing. Okay, so there's me and Kelly front and center. No, but seriously. So we have a team of awesome APs. Ivy, she's our K-2 AP. McCaskill, she's our early childhood. Sellers is middle school. Banks is intermediate. Norwood is our student support services director. And then we have Ms. Sloan, she's our before and after care, out of school time AP. So the team is pretty healthy, but everyone serves their own purpose, and it works out so well this way because right now the model is kind of every AP is the principal of their own grade band. So we're able to one, grow our APs in the leadership capacity that we want them to be in because they're manning and owning their own grade bands. So because the model is set up this way, we have hands on everybody in the building because the APs report directly to us. They all report the same information, observations they perform, discipline data for that week, how many stars their teachers are getting during the week. So every AP is reporting the same information just at their grade band, which has been working out so well this school year.
Our other team, and feel free to chime in if you guys have questions, but we want to kind of have you guys see a little bit more of who all the people are in our building. Our wellness team is another really important part of what makes things tick here. We have a large team of clinicians who are working every day with kids in crisis. And I think it's especially important to think of them when people usually are like, well, who deals with discipline, right? While our APs are in charge of their grade bands, this is who's supporting our kids being well. And a kid in crisis who is acting out and doing other things is going to be linked up with a clinician in addition with that AP who's going to talk about potential behavior consequences, but this person is going to talk about source, right? Like, why are you doing this? What's going on? How can we help you better? And like Mr. Cole, our top left, has been here, I think we calculated the other day, for 17 years. So this was his first job out of college, it was high leadership public charter school at the time. He has a lot of families that he supported, the parents people who are now parents at our school when they were in high school. So it really gives him an amazing picture of families, and the trust that he has with them is incredible. Our 2 newer clinicians we have are Miss Lopes and Mr. Misher. And that's also just wonderful because they're fresh faces for our parents who maybe need someone new and brand new. Mr. Misher is brand new and just finished his master's of social work too. So it's a nice full kind of group of people who have very little experience to a lot of experience. And like Mr. Misher, he's a lot younger. He can identify with kids differently. And that's great. He's a high school football coach right now. He's also doing our middle school flag football and mindfulness club after school. So they've really done a great job of integrating into our school community. Dory Smith is a Department of Behavioral Health clinician who works with us. And she is like, I don't know what you say, Rachel. I always call her like, she's just a pro. Like, she's been doing this forever. She's worked for Child and Family Services. She's worked for DBH. She's worked for schools. And she has so much perspective that she brings to our team. In addition to just working great with kids, she helps us just kind of also like have perspective when things seem hard. Brand new to us in September is Becca Cox from One Common Unity. She's a clinical social worker. So we don't, just to clarify, we don't pay for Miss Dory Smith, Miss Becca Cox, or Nico. Those are people that we found outside funding to fund positions for us. She is brand new to social work too, but takes on clients and parents because she works under the mental health expansion project of the city. It does mean that she has different like referral criteria and different intake materials that she has to cover, but she gives a different level of service to families, and she can do parent counseling as well, which is what's really nice. And then Nico. So Nico is a One Common Unity practitioner because he's not technically a clinician. He doesn't have a social worker or counseling degree, but he's worked in tons of different schools. He does arts integration. He does music expression. He runs a fly-by-light club after school where kids are doing music and arts expression. And it's really about peace and healing is the mission of One Common Unity. It's about violence reduction. And he has an incredible way of talking with kids about that and being accessible to them throughout their regular school day and then after school. Did I miss anything, Rachel, about our wellness team? Okay. So they meet as every other week with our APs and ourselves, and then they meet every week as a group of clinicians. They accept wellness referrals ongoing. So teachers, parents, anybody can make a referral to them, and they will review it as a group, decide who's the best fit, and then decide if it's one-on-one counseling that makes sense, if it's joining a lunch bunch that makes sense, if it's a family meeting that makes sense, and kind of works to figure out what the best way to support the needs that we've identified are. This is another one. People have asked questions about 10 Square lately and what their role is, because so many of you guys are new to us. But 10 Square is someone who partners with us. Alexandra's right on here too. She's been here from the beginning on like the recruitment side. So she helped recruit Rachel and I to the school. Terry is someone on their team who does their current recruiting for us with teachers and other staff members as we look at it. Jess Enos, I forgot to add the rest of the titles for people here. I'm realizing Alexandra. Jess, so who I think you guys can see my cursor here. She supports us with data. So I meet with her on a bi-weekly basis with her RAPs, and we're looking at student test data, attendance data, compliance data, enrollment. So she's helping us with all of like the output and input pieces that we're using both to input our instruction, but also like how our school gets reviewed and what the metrics are that we're being measured by. Alexandra coaches me, Larita coaches Rachel. And then Jen and Khadijah, who we have on the left, are just an integral part of our school day. So they are working with every teacher in 3rd through 8th grade in math and ELA. So they are doing, I believe, weekly, but Rachel, you could correct me, their kind of cadence for coaching and observation. What is that right now, Rachel?
Yeah, weekly.
So they're seeing every teacher and meeting with them and working on what each individual teacher needs, just like we look at what individual students need. And it's someone who's not their boss, but it's someone who is kind of like their peer coach saying like, I've also taught this math class before. I've got a ton of expertise in it. And let me help you see what you're doing right now in class and how we could improve it.
And another reason 10 Square is so instrumental into our program is because Kelly mentioned it about just having outside eyes. When we meet with Jess, for example, to look at data, Jess isn't a parachute employee. So when she presents like data in front of us, where everyone's objective, she is literally like just showing us data that we then act on. So a lot of the times the outside eyes help because they have a broader perspective and they're in a bunch of different schools. So one day I went to my leadership coach and I was like, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed. And she literally said, you need perspective. You need to go to other schools to realize like it's not as bad as you think it is. So then they're able to do things that we don't have because we're a single charter school. So 10 Square serves as that, that buffer that is able to be objective and just come into the building and see it for what it is and just are able to, build relationships with us in that way so that we can move forward like in a productive, way, if that makes sense. I know I just rambled, but I hope you all got what I was trying to say.
And it's a unique model, right? Like, I think that's the other thing that is unique to Perry Street and works really well for us and might work differently at different schools.
And then the last thing I want to say about the 10 Square coaches is that's also a really good model for us as well, because we have APs, we have 10 Square coaches. We're all on the same page, but all of our pages are kind of different. So for example, the 10 Square coaches literally are on the ground with teachers, coaching support, whereas the APs are more so coaching support, but also a little bit of discipline too. Like for example, teachers aren't turning in lesson plans on time, that's where the APs will step in to support in that way. And then there's additional layers of support, Kelly and I, who also are coaching and supporting teachers, but then there's another layer of accountability and discipline. So the three of the different groups work well together, and everyone has their own kind of niche. So we're able to seamlessly go throughout the building, know what's going on. All of us are on the same page, and all of us know like what people are working on, so that when we walk in the classrooms, I know that Jen told Ms. Moy that she needs to use a timer because she's talking too much. So when I go into the classroom, I'm looking for the timer. So just things like that we're able to do because we have like partnerships and we all work together in that way.
We've got a hand raised.
Good morning, everyone. This is an amazing presentation, by the way. One quick question, and I apologize if it was already brought up. The community partners in programming, are these pro bono services or are these contracted vendors with the school?
The whole variety. So 10 Square we pay for. We pay them. The clinicians I mentioned previously are paid for by the city. And then these supports I can kind of go through for you, and they're a combination. And they're a combination of us also using city funding to cover the cost of this, and we can apply for grants that cover these. Some are, self-funded, but so in terms of these wraparound supports, Restore DC is a subsidized service that we pay for. So Restore DC, it comes in and does professional development, and they do coaching all around this like new lens of, we don't even like calling it discipline, but behavior management, right? And they're coaching. So they've done individual teacher meetings, they do AP meetings, they can come in for circles, and are just trying to help us take the very long, hard journey from a punitive mindset to a restorative mindset, right? Like, how are we restoring kids and not punishing them? How are we changing behavior through teaching new behavior and not punishing bad behavior? And that's like what they do. So anyways, they're a subsidized service that comes in. So they have some grant funding that covers it, and then we pay a small portion remaining. The same is true for, this is a long list of them, but we have tutors who come in. So we have a group called Blueprint Tutors. They come in, they're heavily subsidized by OSSI. So we have 5 full-time people that we only pay $88,000 for. That's because they only charge us $17,000 a person, because the remaining is paid for by OSSI high impact tutoring grant. We have a city tutor grant also that subsidizes the costs of some of our interventionists. So those pieces get covered by a portion of that bucket. The other ones I'm looking at on here, Capital Area Food Bank is fully funded by the city, and they partner and just bring in food and resources to us. Grassroots Health is a partner that is such a cool partner for our middle school. It's fully funded by outside funding too. So we don't pay anything for that. What they come in and do is our sexual, mental, and nutritional health for middle schoolers. They do 10-week sessions, and they bring in college athletes. And then what happened last week and tonight is they also do family programming. And that is such a cool resource that they have figured out how to internally fund, where they just start conversations with parents about how to talk to your kids about sexual health, mental health, and nutritional health, and getting parents to practice those conversations, getting them access to accurate information, and building a community where they can know that together they're trying to raise kids, and it's hard. So who else on here? I'm trying to look at transportation cards are provided by the city. What we're always trying to do, or at least my lens on it, is saying, let's provide as much as humanly possible and figure out how to pay as little for it. And I think that's my job a lot of the time. And Rachel's is to tell me what we need. Like, what do we need to support kids? And then like, how do we figure out what's for free and what we can pay for? If we see anything that's free, I'm going to look into it. And that's like always my promise to people. I'm like, we'll figure out how to house another person. A lot of the barriers people have to bringing in like the Department of Health clinicians, mental health clinicians, and the nurses is space, because they have really specific requirements for offices, privacy, bathrooms. And that's where we have a huge asset. We have a big building, right? And so we even bring in some people who work out of our building but aren't full-time in our building. So they're supporting other schools, but we can give them an office because we have a big space.
Kelly and Rachel, I know in some past years, board members have contributed towards like the toiletries and clothing bank that you guys have for students. Is that still a need? Is that something that we could individually donate to the school to help provide?
Yes, I just started to I turned off my slideshow, but I'm gonna stop myself. If you go to our giving page, I've made some updates, but I want, maybe Rachel, you could drop the link in. Yes. And that's a huge thing for us, that where we're bridging the gap, like where teachers are trying to support families and we're trying to figure out how we have that not coming out of their pockets and parent pockets. Well, we have a whole family resource room that has clothes, toothbrushes, toothpaste, hairbrushes, deodorant, and we have an Amazon wish list that has gotten funded by different organizations, board member gifts, and just sharing it with relatives. It's such an easy way to make a donation. It all gets shipped directly here, but you can decide like, hey, when I was in middle school, I was really struggling with this. I would love to give them a whole bunch of pair of pants that actually fit kids. No, but we have in seemingly infinite need for just basic resources that we try to curate onto an Amazon list. So thank you for asking, Vanette, and we'll send it out, put it in the chat, or I'll send it out immediately following this too.
I put it in the chat.
I literally have 2 boxes of items and loading that I'm planning on bringing over to the school.
And please do. So like physical donations are also wonderful. Like we have kind of really random people who will be like, hey, I've got 10 brand new coats. And we're like, we'll take them. And what we've started doing that is new this year, we've run it in different ways, is that we have a parent resource room that you can always go to by appointment. So if you're working with a social worker, but we also this year are now opening it every Friday from 3 to 4. And I was shocked at the number of people who came and used it. So we're now 3 weeks in, and there's no like barrier to entrance. We just open the doors. We open the door. We have we ask, because the Capital Food Bank wants it like when you're visiting, indicating how many people are in your household. And like, that's the only information that we collect from it. But it's been a wide variety of people who use it, and students. Like students can come in, and we do it on Friday so that they could get food to bring home for the weekend in particular, since we don't always know what people's resources will be over the weekend. But there's like a random set of towels that someone donated that were immediately picked up the first day we opened up the Parent Resource Center, right? So like we kind of are always surprised by what it is. Shoes are always helpful. So another partner that I think is just good for you guys to know, because it's a huge financial ticket item, is Genuine Foods right here. So they are our National School Lunch Program provider. So we provide a free breakfast, lunch, snack, and supper to every student every day. But in addition to that, they are actually helping with the food distribution. So they cook for 15 schools. They cook on site at Perry Street. And then they are delivering to all the other schools from our school. It means they give us a reduced pricing on all of our food. And we have some revenue by renting our kitchen to them. We also get all their excess food. So they do, it's about 3 days a week now. They do fresh produce that they put out on the table, and it gets taken immediately. So every family is going home with extra fresh produce that's coming out of the kitchen. And it's been a really nice partnership that previously all that food just gets thrown away. So the food resources have been really increased with our partnership with them for families. We've talked about a lot of these, but we just want to make sure people kind of really know about the full program. Our out of school time has drastically changed over the years and what we have to offer. Right now we have a full free club model, and then we have 2 full-time childcare providers in the building. Our club model is continuing to expand so that people have more and more options. We got a Learn 24 grant. So we've already been granted $280,000 to fund a lot of this for this school year, which we found out way after the school year started, but we started slowly and we'll keep building. And we also now have access to another very large Learn 24 grant that's due in December. So we're hoping to keep bringing in money to support more and more of these out of school time events. We have a new parent engagement group that's running a holiday bazaar and an 8th grade transition team that's working really hard on supporting our 8th graders in particular. So that means advisors are setting up meetings with their kids to work on essays, applications, talk about where they want to go, make sure they understand what they're looking for and that they have support through that process with parents, where we've seen kind of a big education gap exist before. I feel like some of this is pretty redundant. So you guys have access to this information, but our conversation has gone on it. We just want to make sure board members have a full picture and access to everything that's happening in here and what our resources are. Anyone have questions before I go on?
I do quickly, Kelly. Thank you for this. The giving page, has that been updated since the last time we talked as a smaller group or with all the opportunities? I know there was like one where the Spirit Squad, we couldn't access their, I don't know if they had a giving link or a
Yep. If
okay,
you go, cool. I think that day we had it up. So there's a couple different Amazon lists on it, and there's different specific ways that you can give.
Awesome.
We have our Cash App and Venmo info on there too.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. That's helpful.
All right. Just checking on the time here. So
we can go back one more slide because we have a board member who
I was just gonna say
what was that, last week last week we had an organization coming to the school. They all had sweatshirts on that said we need more thinkers, and what they did was they read books to pre-K all the way up to 3rd grade. There were literally like 10 people, including Ms. Stroman, in our building, going through our classes, reading books to kids. The kids were so excited. Teachers were so excited. The kids were taking pictures. But it was a really fun event that happened last week in the morning. And I want to highlight that and say thank you, Ms. Stroman, for being a part of that and also just being a part of our school community. I think she's here more than me. So I just want to say thank you and just highlight the fact that you have just been awesome to Perry Street this school year.
She's on mute still. I was deciding if she was going to say anything. They also donated a couple hundred books. So we've got a bunch of books that are getting both handed out to kids, but then also they've created a teacher store of books so that teachers can go in and find a bunch of new books to add to their classrooms, which is great. All right. For operations and enrollment, we just want to make sure people kind of know where we're at right now. We did have an enrollment deficit. It was not great enough that we met a threshold to need to rebudget for the PCSB. Where we are really finding it hardest to fill as many seats as we're targeting is in pre-K. I know that we've talked about some of this for a few years. We have an enormous amount of seats available in pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 in Ward 5 and Ward 7 and 8. There's many more seats than there are students. So our task at hand is really trying to figure out ways to be the top choice for pre-K 3 and pre-K 4, but we're going to have to be that to get these seats filled. And that's Ms. McCaskill, our early childhood AP, and I's big goal. One of the things we're going to be doing is we're partnering with OSSI to actually open hopefully next school year, and you'll learn more about it through the year, as we started the process of them to open 2 childcare classrooms where we could serve 2-year-olds and create a feeder pattern for ourselves. And it's what some schools are starting to do. Teachers could utilize it too. They could use childcare subsidy or they could pay by hand, but it'd be under Perry Street Prep nonprofit, but we could create a childcare license where we're bringing kids in even earlier, and we've captured those families even younger in our school community and then matriculating them into pre-K seats. And just getting our word out, right? We're a brand new program still. This is our 2nd year operating a pre-K ourselves, and we need to keep figuring out how we get everybody talking about how great it is and how we make it a great program. Other than that, we really didn't see any big enrollment gaps. We were pretty much able to meet targets. We kind of had a mismatch. We ended up with more kids in 7th grade than 8th grade than we imagined, but it's a pretty balanced out once you look at the numbers. over the years, we've grown at every level with the exception of pre-K. Our special education department has been very consistent. We're at about 16% of students. That is high for the city average, but it is consistent with what we've been serving. And we see that population continuing to grow post-pandemic because we kind of had a couple years there where no one was being evaluated. And so one of the questions that we're figuring out is, did kids lose a lot of education, or did they have learning differences that weren't able to be identified at a younger age? But we're going through a lot of eligibility and evaluation of students, making sure that they have all the supports they need. Our ELL population, which is our English language learners, is pretty consistent. It goes up and down different years. It's small enough that one family with 5 kids can impact it a lot. And that's what happened last year, but we're back up to around the same numbers that we've had previously. And our at-risk population is still at that elevated level this year. We saw a big jump last year of about 10% of at-risk students, and we're right around the same place this year. I see that number going up and down just based on as families are eligible for. So at-risk designation is students who are eligible for any state benefits. So food stamps, cash assistance, disability, students who are in foster care, or students who are experiencing homelessness, all are what categorize that at-risk population. I don't have anything new for you guys for compliance and procurement. What it really just means is that most of our vendors are working out for us right now. We're not having a lot of changes, so we're seeing renewals instead of new contracts. But when we come to this spring, I'll present a few to you, like I usually do for like new technology purchases that are over 25K or new partners we're looking to work with.
Kelly, going back a slide, do we have any insight yet? I know the internal pre-K program is on the newer side. Do we have any insight yet into what some of our enrollment challenges are? I mean, the 2-year-old pipelining sounds fantastic. Do we know any other kind of more, I hate to say immediate, but like short-term ways to address the shortfall?
Yeah, I mean, we're done in terms of being able to change that impact for this year.
Mm-hmm.
So where we can change revenue is in special populations throughout the year. So if our special education numbers grow, our funding grows. But as of October 5th, we're frozen in terms of funding for enrollment. We can keep enrolling seats, and like what we've done in years past and what we plan to do right now is continuing to enroll kids at those grade levels, even though we won't be funded for them because we retain them, right? They're really young. Now, at this point in the year, are we really looking to take on more 8th graders? Absolutely not. We're over full in that grade level, and we'll only have them for a couple months. Even, like when you look at where we don't have any seats available right there. But in pre-K where we have seats, we'll keep enrolling and keep getting the word out. I think the work right now is the most important because they have to apply by March 1st, and people are just starting to open up open houses. So right now is when we're doing the work for next year, which is getting.
Yeah, and that was my question: is how next year? What can we do to impact that? I guess count day is over. I can't believe it's November already.
I know.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
But we're trying to bring people in weekly. We're going to keep having pre-K play dates. We want our families to be talking to other folks. And yeah, this childcare option is just another idea we're throwing out there. We're trying to really build our social media presence because that's where we see a lot of families learning about our school and learning about other schools. And we're also partnering with Niche now, which is like, I just have been meeting with them a few times. They're like basically the most highly trafficked because they're buying all the data, like school, both review and parent review website. So I'm kind of trying to start partnering with more of those that we haven't worked with before.
Kelly, can you also just talk about the CBOs and with the district shifted and how that shifted pre-K enrollment throughout the city? Because I think that is something that is worth mentioning.
Yeah, and it's part of what gave us this idea about starting our own childcare seats. So 3 years ago, the city four. Yeah, I was like, it was over the pandemic because like no one
it was right before the pandemic.
Like no one really knew it happened. But so the district shifted the way it's funding pre-K, and it's allowing full per pupil payments to go to childcare providers now, and to go to places that were once really only daycares, but now they can hold on to those kiddos and get the full per pupil funding for it, in addition to the childcare subsidy payment. So that's what expanded seats by just tons, because we had all these agencies that were newly eligible to have pre-K funded seats for kids. that didn't before have access to that. Before, only schools could have access to that funding. And so a daycare now that has a 3-year-old and an infant of a family can say to that family, oh, we can keep your 3-year-old for free for 2 more years while you pay for your infant to be here, or you use your child subsidy for your infant to be here. And then like, what a great idea. We'll keep them here. And then you'll transition at kindergarten. And so we see a lot more families doing that. A lot more families staying at their smaller daycare centers, getting it for free. Like Communikids is a name that I feel like people are talking. I hear people talking about. Communikids is one of those ones that kind of like masterfully did it and did it before other people too. But they were a childcare center that now has expanded into its own pre-K and then sends kids off in kindergarten. And what they're also all doing is convincing parents to hold their kids back, which I've recently learned more and more about, because there are not requirements. There's not age out requirements on that pre-K funding. So kids who have like summer birthdays are getting really highly encouraged to hold on, spend another year in pre-K before going into kindergarten. And, you know, every family, every educator has different perspectives on this, and there's, you know, pros and cons, but we see more and more kids staying in pre-K before they're aging in, because it isn't that incentive anymore that you're looking for your no cost school experience. You're getting your no cost school experience in an early childhood center. So we got to fight that battle. We got to figure out, and if the battle is also just that our middle school is going to stay bigger and our pre-K is going to stay smaller, that's one of the things we need to talk about, right? And say like, if that's just what the trend that we're seeing, that we have a high demand for middle school seats, then we just have to make sure we're planning and preparing for that. Rachel's always like, no, we want to start them younger.
I wonder if there's been any sort of research on how well those daycare centers that are now keeping students at the pre-K level, how well they're preparing them for kindergarten versus pre-K programs are already established as pre-K programs, because the purpose of those programs is to prepare those, you know, young people, those tiny people, to be ready to start being in a school, right, in kindergarten, and start being learners, right? So I wonder if there are any kind of studies about if there's been any sort of change in how prepared the students are with that change.
Are you shaking your head, Alexandra? What do you?
Yeah, so Vinette, this is such a good question, because it's an interesting experiment the district is doing, because you're in essence taking public funds and paying for private school tuition for pre-K 3 and 4-year-olds at private institutions. But because those institutions are private, and because federal law doesn't kick in until kindergarten in terms of accountability, there is no accountability mechanism to get at what you're talking about. And so whereas Perry Street has to do like the class observations where OSSI comes in and observes classrooms, you get that rating for all your classrooms. We do the TS Gold, you see literacy and numeracy. This is outside of that. And so what you're raising is such a fascinating question of just like public accountability of public dollars that right now is not baked into that legislation that was passed.
And like, it's evolving, right? Like we're gonna see what happens, and try to build from both sides. The other thing, like I think as a school we should really look at is, since 2020, we've had a very similar student population, and that might be a sweet spot for us, right? We know we can financially, this is a model that works with our current facility. We kind of every year, and I'm the first person to be like, we're gonna grow by a little more, we can do it. Like we, you know, like there's the interest, but we always end up close to the same spot. So like, that's my reflection on it too, is like, this might be our right size. And we just need to make sure it's sustainable, right? And we're building a robust enough bottom that we keep filling our top. And that's always the worry about letting your bottom get small, is that kids are going to move. So continuing to backfill at older grades is a great educational opportunity for kids who need a new school, but it's hardest for us to really ensure continuity of their education, vertical alignment of our curriculum. The reason we moved out our prior private pre-K providers, that we didn't see that alignment, right? We didn't see the alignment between what they were teaching and what our kindergartners needed to know. So that's the fear with not doing it ourselves. And I think, Vinette, what you're asking is what we should be looking for, and explaining the value to parents and being really specific about it, that we're giving you something different and we are held higher accountable for what we give you than another private daycare. So we've 100% finished. I think I could tell you that in September, though, all of our bathroom renovations. I'm gonna this spring be talking to you guys about maybe renovating our C-wing bathrooms and locker rooms. And big picture, we really want to be looking to renovate our outdoor space in the back. We always just want to talk about this so everyone kind of isn't surprised when we come back and say like, hey, I've got an idea. I want to spend $2 million. But these are really what Rachel and I are talking with our team about being like the most important next steps to making sure we're caring for our environment as best we can and making it the best for kids, is that we've got a little more work to do on bathrooms. And then we really want to work on our back outdoor space that is currently kind of like a dirt field and a slowly degrading playground. And we want to make that a state of the art. And we also know that helps with recruitment. Parents see that. And you see that from the outside of our school. And I think that's another little piece of how we get more and more interest in pre-K, is that they see we have a really beautiful pre-K learning environment. This is it for us in terms of an update. I think we're going to go to committees after this, but any other questions for Rachel and I? All right. Oh, look at those cute kids. Thank you. Mostly is our finance committee update. Our finance committee spent over an hour yesterday meeting with bankers and investors who are giving us advice on how we take next steps in really making some revenue on the cash that we have on hand. So the work of the finance committee right now is going to be on that, finalizing our investment policy that we'll bring to the whole board to approve on a vote, but then really making sure we're being excellent stewards of the excess cash that we have and don't need immediately. So that's the work of the finance committee. The other verbal update that we'll give is just that finances this year are on track. While we have an enrollment deficit, we do have increased funding in some of our special education numbers that we budgeted for. We did not fill every teaching position that we had budgeted for, but we are at a really steady level right now. So we have found some savings there. Additionally, after budgeting, we have 3 grants that came in that have helped us just stabilize. So that's that Learn 24 out of school time grant that's helped stabilize some of our revenue. Our city tutor grant that's come in, and so they are funding some of our interventionist positions that we hadn't anticipated when we budgeted. And then SOAR funding, which is a typical grant we apply for but wasn't included in our original budget. So we're steady. We're looking at a positive net income. We're looking at very little contribution to cash at the end of this year, but that's mostly because we spent a lot of money last year on these bathrooms, but we're stable, and that's the most important news. The money that's all come in from the WTU has made it look like we have a large cash infusion right now, and not from the WTU, excuse me, from the teacher pay legislation that DC Council passed, but that is all slowly going out. So all of our teachers on October 15th who returned, our counselors, our APs, our office staff all got what was called a retroactive pay of 7.6% that matched what the city gave every DCPS teacher. So everyone got a nice bonus in October. And then we increased pay scale. So all the money that came in from that legislation is slowly making its way out.
So Kelly, I just wanted to add, going back to what Kelly mentioned before, yesterday's finance committee meeting where we met with different representatives from different banks and investment companies. It's one of the 3 priorities that we named as a finance committee when we had our retreat in September. So it just shows that we're getting started. We didn't just set these priorities and we lay them aside. This is something we took really seriously in making our money work for us. And we're committed to making that happen this year. So really great meeting yesterday. And like Kelly said, we will get something in front of the board soon to vote on how we create our investment policies.
Martinique, I don't know if we have an update from academics committee or if we have anything we want to share.
No, we don't have any updates. I'll be sending out a email to the committee today to schedule a meeting. but there are no updates from the academic committee.
All right.
Hi, everyone. I have a small update and then a really important update. The governance committee did meet and finalize our priorities kind of for the year. We also met jointly with the other two committees and school leadership just to talk about ways that the board could streamline and kind of grow their contribution to the school. In addition to kind of the board governance related work that we do, like things like that giving page work came up in the discussion, and other opportunities to kind of tap in support of the teacher development work that Kelly and Rachel are investing so heavily in, et cetera. So anyone can kind of check the governance agenda for the running meeting minutes from all of those meetings. And then more excitedly, we do have a new candidate who, since our last time together, has been kind of making the rounds, meeting the school leadership, touring the school, candidate for a position on the board, I should say. He has joined us today. I believe he joined yesterday's finance call as well. He comes very highly recommended from Katie Noonan, our current finance chair. I don't know. I know we maybe weren't even going to get Katie until the end, so I don't even know if we got her. But Andrew Alman has joined us today. I had a chance we've had some emails back and forth, and then I'll share a bit with all of you because I am going to call for a vote in like 2 minutes about his background. So like I said, he comes very highly recommended from Katie Noonan. They are colleagues at their law firm. Those of you who are maybe newer to the board, in addition to Katie's role as our finance chair, she so generously offers her legal expertise and perspective on many of our kind of governance needs and school operations initiatives. And she is preparing to roll off, but did not want to leave us high and dry, and recommended a highly capable successor to continue to offer some of those kind of benefits to the board through the way of service. So I'll just share with you a few passages or snippets from Andrew's application. So not currently serving on any other boards. It's a question we asked, like I mentioned, referred by Katie, has represented Perry Street in a couple pro bono capacities. Katie has, and I imagine, Andrew is kind of raising his hand to say he agrees to kind of continue that, be the liaison between us and the firm in that way. Is not currently a DC resident, has toured the school. So I'll invite him to share a bit about his experience and kind of what he's looking forward to as well. But has a background as a real estate finance attorney. And I think, is really critical as we look at our investment strategy going forward. Those perspectives will be invaluable. Already has plans to kind of commit and contribute to our ongoing budget process. Sorry, I'm just looking at the notes I pulled out of his application, so apologize for the lack of eye contact. And then also, I think what's important is that he has some community advocacy background as well. In his local community, is understanding of kind of board structure, understanding governance needs, and just all around comes as a really seasoned candidate that I think could make some immediate impact on the board. Andrew, I'll invite you to share a bit about your experience touring the school and tell us a bit about what you're excited to get into here at Perry Street, if we still have you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll try to keep things brief. I know people are busy to start their morning, but I was really excited to learn that Katie was rolling off the board, and that there was this opportunity to continue the relationship between our law firm and the school, and how rich of a relationship that has been in terms of helping the school get financing and navigate leases and all sorts of other operational items. As a father of 4 children, all of whom are currently in public school, and and pre-K, you know, I can really, I had the great opportunity to go around with Kelly and meet so many members of the school community, and I could see my children in the faces of the kids there, and I could see the excitedness, I could see the eagerness to learn and to you know, so I see it, you know, from my children, you know, every day, and I'm just so grateful to be a part of the journey, you know, even if I'm looking over numbers and advising more on kind of the finance side as a real estate finance lawyer. I'm gonna be, you know, all of the kids in the community hold a very special place in my heart. So I look forward you know, to being very active, and even with Capital Area Food Bank, I've been involved with them before, and certainly in running clothing drives and other types of things. So I would love to have opportunities to you know, to chip in there as well.
Thank you, Andrew. So that does leave, from a governance perspective, that does leave a priority to, we have some DC residents that will be rolling off at the end of this school year. So we do need to kind of keep an eye on our ratio compliance. I think we have a handle on that. The governance committee in our next meeting is scheduled to discuss kind of a, I don't know, mini recruiting effort, if you'll call it, really just an internal tapping of our network to see if we can invite some DC residents from our network to come on board in enough time to kind of shadow before they have to backfill some of our DC residents who will be rolling off at the end of this school year. But with that, I would like to call for a vote on Andrew's membership on the board.
Will you nominate him?
I will.
Move to nominate Andrew?
I move to nominate Andrew as our newest board member at Perry Street Prep.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Welcome aboard, Andrew.
Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions, comments in our last 2 minutes, everyone?
Nope, not for me.
It's been a great meeting. Thanks for everyone for keeping us on time. Thank you, school leadership, for presenting such great information. Please, everyone, do follow up about the donations to the school, particularly right now as it's, you know, holiday season, it's cold, you know, our families have so much need. So I urge all of you to click on those links. I know that they'll be sending them to us after the meeting as well. And support the school in any way that you personally can. And with that, I'd like for someone to move to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Wonderful. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.